us, in fact, are in it for a bunch of blank flanks trying to find themselves. The honest truth of the whole sordid matter is that we are all watching in hope that one day the animators will spit their collective bit and deliver to us even a glimpse of the lesbian bondage fantasy we all know to be thrumming just beneath the buttoned-down bourgeois surface of Twilight Sparkle's mind. And at the midpoint, between the mescaline and the catnip, with any acid that may have been involved losing a fight with a little vial of distilled rainbow extract of the sort that you have to be a Pegasus to get hold of without a license, my successor to this channel has arrived, which is all for the best, as soon I shall freak out and begin gnawing on my hind hooves. She is all yours, you magnificent horned fucker, you.
Yes, well, if ever there was a story less likely to find itself huddled under the crusty blanket of the furry fandom, one would have expected it to be the Arthurian legend, but as we established, the Disney animators of the time were nothing if not inventively perverse. But horny squirrels aside, of the many themes that have been plied into the Arthurian legend over time, the Disney crew attached about the least likely imaginable: modernism. In a tale of magic and sorcery, Disney decided to go with Enlightenment-era Hobbesian thinking and space-age scientific enthusiasm. The Disney crew set Merlin up as the world's first modernist, who, unlike his contemporaries, sees the natural state of the world as an awful mess, and his own human agency as the solution. And while we might say that the writers, uncomfortable with the Arthurian legend's endorsement of divine ordination, wanted a counterweight, the divine sword dwindles almost to an afterthought, the animators choosing instead to amuse themselves with vignettes where Merlin forgets he isn't teaching 20th century engineering, or really that he's teaching anything at all other than how cool it is to take on animal characteristics. In these segments, Arthur is alternatively attacked, molested, and mocked by the many creatures whose experiences made them much more dangerous than he is. These threats are, in the end, the real lessons. Merlin indoctrinates his pupil to Hobbes's notion that without civilization, life will indeed be nasty, brutish, and short, by giving him glimpses into a beautiful world that is all the same horribly dangerous without rules and without governance. It's also the sort of place where you're liable to get sexually assaulted by squirrels no matter what your age. For all the modernist ideals, of course, the story must end with divine ordination, so Merlin is playing at Plato's notion of the philosopher king in reverse. Arthur will one day be king, so Merlin needs to make him into a lover of knowledge before the day of destiny arrives. As delightful as all this is, The Sword in the Stone tries very hard not to take itself too seriously, even undercutting its own arguments about modernism by having Merlin briefly vanish into the distant future, only to return utterly sick of the whole business. This, I think, is a lesson Disney should relearn from itself, if any of its recent offerings are an indication. Too often, the delicate balance between various ideologies in the real world drives Disney to write in soaring tones about ultimately lukewarm morals when the audience and the writers would both be better served with characters who are willing to say something controversial but whose narrative is not presented in a vacuum. Merlin dishes out a few metric tons of venom on the jocks of the world, but in the end, Arthur sides with them in a showdown that is at once heartfelt and morally complex. And that's the important thing here. To be able to disagree, even argue with yourself, to see two views.
Pinkamena. She's coming.
She's here!